Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath from Caravan Digital. We're a digital marketing agency for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands, and we help with paid search, paid social, and email automation. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Ryan Flannigan, CEO of Nuanced Media, and he and his team have helped their clients sell hundreds of millions of dollars in products online, in Amazon, and elsewhere. Thank you so much for joining us. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, Egan, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the Amazon side of things and where you guys really dig in there and kind of where you see the value and what you guys try to focus on with clients these days.
Sure. How I'd like to kind of start this out is I think this is really about how Amazon's changing, how e-commerce is changing, and eventually get into growth-driven advertising is what we really focus on. First of all, in Amazon, for a number of years, you could throw up a listing, one photo, and get it up and start making sales, and everything would be great, and you would be a millionaire overnight. Not really, but that was kind of the dream, and that was really a possibility. What we're seeing nowadays in the platform is that it's getting significantly more competitive, and the growth rate of Amazon isn't as really escalating as much as it was before. We had seen different segments going up by 200, 300% on an annual basis. And that's kind of equaled out, particularly after COVID for most segments. Some are still growing at that rapid pace. But when things kind of go on that bell curve and you see that things are starting to equal out and they're not going on that growth rate, well, then we have to start looking at listings and saying, well, how do we stay competitive and how do we grow in this environment? And what we really see at Nuanced Media is what we like to call the kind of Pareto principle on steroids. Pareto principle being that 20% of your sales make 20% of your products make 80% of your sales. On Amazon, we'll see one listing making $1 million, $2 million, $10 million a year, right? And then the rest of the catalog making $1 million a year, right? Or 100,000 and 10,000 a year, however that breaks down on those listings. So what we really focus on is not necessarily taking the whole catalog and focus on the whole catalog and treating it equally. We focus on those hero listings and actually doing it better than anybody else. Now, to speak about how you do it better, there's split testing, there's keyword ranking strategies, there's a variety of things like that. But kind of like you see in e-commerce on Shopify or any of these websites, there's conversion optimization tactics and things like that. And that's what we really do on Amazon for those hero listings to make sure that you keep that strategic advantage, competitive advantage above your competitors and continue to grow while the platform may not be growing as quickly.
Yeah, I like how you say that. Certainly in our world, we've seen, paid traffic is just getting more and more challenging when we're driving to a website. And so UX and conversion optimization has become more and more important. It sounds like the same is true on Amazon. That's fascinating.
It's pretty amazing. So, there's a few different things. So let me kind of walk through growth-driven advertising and what we look at with that. So in growth-driven advertising in general, we do competitive analysis. We're always targeting our top competitors and what they're doing on that. We do keyword research initially based on what you're doing and the competitive listings of that. But then we also do what we like to call data-driven keyword optimization. So what keywords are you converting for on the platform? Like through paid search, right? And then integrating those into your text so you rank organically more for them, right? So there's actually a data-driven strategy around building that out and growing those up. Then you launch pay-per-click campaigns to make sure that you're ranking for those and continuing to escalate for those. And while doing all this, if it makes sense, then we do some different split testing. So just to give you a quick example of the results that we've gotten on this. So for one of our clients, we basically saw that by split testing the main image, we increased their click-through rate by 102%, right? Just by doing the main image, which drove sales significantly. And this was last week. This wasn't last year. This wasn't 3 years ago. This was right away. So there are split testing capabilities in Amazon. You can do title split testing, you can do main image split testing, and then you actually can do A+ content split testing on those. So when you look at conversion optimization, those things, it's super critical that you're actually looking at this in more of a competitive market. And then the third thing with looking at growth-driven advertising is understanding really where you are. So we have some tools that enable us to do a market analysis. And where it's always been, the best thing about Amazon is you get all this data. So like in Google, you don't really know what your competitors are doing. You don't know any of these other type of things that are going on, right? But in Amazon, we can actually tell by category, and we can actually, through our tools, drill down to, lip liner that's between $9 and $20 and has over 100 reviews and is making at least $1,000 a month, and track you against those direct competitors. Now, the importance of that and doing that per product family, and particularly maybe even per ASIN that you're doing that is then you can have a real conversation. So with one of our clients, they're a leading seller in the earn market. A little bit, morbid, but it's a thing that we all need, right?
The URN market, earn. Gotcha.
Yeah. So with this particular partner of ours, a client of ours, this market's been growing by 100, 200% year over year. And then this year, they're up about 25%, right? And like, well, why am I not growing as quickly, right? Well, we actually looked at the market, and her market's down 10% year over year right now. So by doing that segment analysis, actually diving into that, we can say, hey, your market's down 10%, you're up 25%, you're actually making a 35% market share gain on this. And that's a real conversation that you should be having when looking at your product, particularly the products that are making you, 20, 30,000 plus per month on that platform, right? That's a real conversation that you have to have. You have to have that data, you have to have that tracking to be able to have that, because otherwise you could be losing your head going, oh my God, I'm not making money, and the market's actually down 50% and you're only down 20%. Or, the other side of this is the market's up 50%, you're up 10%. You're like, yeah, giving high fives around the office, and you're actually losing market share.
Gotcha. I love that example. Also, when you said they're selling more urns, I was thinking, are more people dying? And then I was like, no, maybe more people are getting cremated, but it sounds like even with the market shrinking, maybe not either. They're just you've helped this client get more market share. So thanks for talking through that. Are you getting that? Again, we do, we're helping our clients get traffic to their, say, Shopify website. You guys are working on the Amazon side. Like, I'm curious, do you get that market share type data from Amazon? You're talking about what the competitors are doing. Like, do you know how much they're bidding, how much they're spending, what they're doing roughly in sales? Like, is that in Amazon?
So yeah, we have tools that we can, and these are pretty expensive tools, but like we have tools that can go down to competitor listings and look at all the keywords they're ranking for and do all those type of things based on the hero you're trying to conquest or whatnot, or even defend about, right? Because Amazon's also maturing, so half of this is product defense, right? It's just like boxing everybody else out so they don't start coming and taking your market share, right? But from that, we get the segment data on, let's say, we typically, when we build out a segment that we want to look at, we try to target about 100 ASINs that are the most similar to your product line on that, so we can get the trend to see what's going on that level, right? So those are things. Some categories, you're talking about vegan beauty product that's never been launched before. Maybe there's only 19 competitors on Amazon, right? But we can actually dive in and get that data and do those analyses and really have the real conversation with our partners on that.
Yeah. What I heard you say there is we're getting data directly from Amazon, but we're also using premium third-party tools to glean some of that as well.
Yes, that is correct. That is an easier way to... thank you for the synopsis. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Can you mention some of these tools and just how you guys use them for anybody who's not familiar?
Yeah. So we use Helium 10 a lot for just kind of the general stuff. That's what we use on that. We use a suite of different things, basically like review automation and those type of things. And then we have some other tools like Jungle Scout Cobalt that we use for some other bigger tracking and things like that, which is pretty prohibitive to the seller. It's a pretty expensive software. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars per year for anybody to get in and use that quality of software on that. So we do a lot of kind of cost saving on that as well.
I want to go back to the split testing or the A/B testing for a moment. Is that, it sounds like even with that image, the image on the product, that's inside Amazon's tools as well. Like you can set up A/B tests. Do you get to see, the data and whether it's statistically significant and all that? Like I'm thinking with a website, we might use Google Optimize or a third-party sort of tool to do A/B testing. What's the deal on Amazon? How does that work? Talk us through that.
Yeah, so Amazon, if you have brand registry and you're making enough sales and traffic, there's actually a capability to do that. That was rolled out about 3 to 6 months ago. That you can do that. Now, a lot of people aren't leveraging it. It's again kind of talking about how early it is in the Amazon life cycle, right? Amazon just got competitive pretty recently, and it's been growing competitive. And what you typically see with other, and you probably see all this all the time, but it's this classic thing when you're doing anything multi-channel on Google or whatnot, is that you'll have a company come in and then they'll run Google ads or whatnot, or Facebook ads, but they don't do any conversion optimization on the site, right? And because of that, you only have half the battle. I think we've all had those partners that we've worked with that they have the page that takes, 45 seconds to load, and you're like, hey, we probably shouldn't be doing any marketing to this until you can get that down to sub 3 seconds, and 3 seconds is pretty long on that, right? So that's one of the things that we really focus on in kind of the growth-driven advertising, is not just managing the pay-per-click, managing the segment, doing the data-driven keyword and content updating on that, and then doing the segment tracking, but then actually doing the optimization on Amazon as you go through that. And I'm honestly not familiar with any other agencies that are doing it to that level for the hero products. Now, I could be wrong. I haven't talked to all the Amazon agencies. I've talked to a lot of them. But most Amazon agencies and other providers similar to paid search are just kind of doing the paid search side and not doing anything that'll make the impact on the listing side.
Yeah, and it sounds like in that example you mentioned, changing the image, what would we say, doubled the click-through rate or what have you. It's like that. Those are really big, impactful changes. Are there things that you and your team look to test that are kind of the first things that you try? Okay, we're gonna run an A/B test on this product or for this client. What sorts of things do you guys look at to test?
Yeah, so any new partner that we work with, we come in and do a what we call an Amazon action plan. So we sit down with them, we do an assessment of their brand and what they're doing, because honestly, I don't work with people that we can't be successful for. And we're not the right fit for everybody, and I'm a big advocate of kind of win-win, right? So we walk through this period, and if we're not the right fit for somebody, we actually have a referral network of other vetted Amazon companies that we can refer you to and help out. Like at the end goal, I want to win. I want to help you win. And if you're not a right fit for us, then we can get you to somebody that's qualified that we've already vetted. Now, what we do is we walk through this action plan, take time to meet your team, get to know each other. You actually get to meet the pay-per-click person that's working on that, do a full analysis, and then kind of come back with some recommendations that we see for your top performing SKUs and what we're doing, and kind of come back with what that would look like at a monthly engagement and so on and so forth. So it really depends. It's kind of like the standard conversion optimization conversation, right? Our listing image is good. Are they good quality? Do you have video on there? Is the content up to date? What does the A+ content look like? All the standard kind of optimization things that you look like are great. But then you want to go in and start doing split testing, right? And what we're seeing is typically Amazon really focused on just having kind of a white background on your images, but we are seeing, particularly in beauty and the beauty category, that people can start putting lips there with a lip liner applying and increasing click-through rate, and some kind of changes on that too. So we do the analysis per client, and then we kind of come back with recommendations on how we would approach it, how we would build it out, and then what we typically do on this is start by working with one of your listings, the one that makes the most sense, and build out the relationship that way.
Yeah, that's great. That makes sense. Thanks for talking through that example. One follow-up question on it is, and again, forgive me for not knowing this ecosystem, is the things you're testing, are they just on the listings where people are looking at a series of different products from different vendors, or is there A/B testing even on the landing page once you're looking at the product?
So yes, is the answer to that. So the main image will show up in Amazon, right? So you'll see that main image show up when you're searching for lip liner, for example, or anything like that, right? Now, but when you click through, you'll actually see that on the page too. So the main image and the title show up, and those are two things that you can split test in search on that, but also on the listing itself. And then the A+ content split testing is only on the A+ content side of that.
Okay. And can you say more about A+ content for anyone who's not familiar with that?
Sure. So A+ content is, if you're looking at Amazon listing, it's kind of below the fold, right above the reviews. You have to have brand registry to do that. Really recommend, if you're playing on Amazon nowadays, that you have brand registry. Otherwise, the chance of success is significantly minimized because somebody can come in and hijack your listing. It's pretty much required that you have brand registry at this point. But what we've seen in kind of general standard conversion rate levels is by just integrating A+ content, which you can put some photos, some different modules, a variety of things like that, do some cross-sell areas on that. You typically increase your conversion rate by 3 to 5% on your listing, right? Just by integrating that and doing that. Now, if you tweak and do better jobs and things like that, then you can continue to grow that and continue to build that even more.
Yeah, talk about low-hanging fruit. That sounds excellent. One of the things you mentioned also is you guys need to really vet your leads and vet people before they become clients. Talk us through that of how did you guys come up with that criteria? What are those criteria? How do you think through whether someone's ready to work with you guys on Amazon?
Yeah, so it's about setting up expectations and making sure that everybody's on the same page, right? Unfortunately, particularly with Amazon taking off due to COVID and just it being Amazon, there's been like a lot of people promising the world and delivering, let's say, less than the world, right? So if you're launching a new product, and we do new product launches, not really in the growth-driven advertising level, because that you have to be brand ready, you have to be retail ready, have a certain amount of reviews, have the listing optimizations. You want to have the real conversation of, hey, what is this investment going to look like? And if I'm running it for 8 months, what is the cost associated with that? Right? And unfortunately, so many people get into it and say, sure, I'll put up a listing, I'll do this type of thing, it'll be $2,000 or something like that. And then you get done, you're like, okay, now what? And you thought $2,000 was the full engagement. And you don't know that now it's going to be an additional $5,000 a month for the next 6 months, not including or including ad spend, right? So what we do for any client that we work with or any partner is do the Amazon action plan, make sure we walk through and we can be a good partner, and then set expectations. If you're new to brand, projections for what you may do, low, medium, and high on those levels. If you're existing brand, some of the opportunities and where we think we can really help on those, just to make sure we're on the same page. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a churn and burn agency. That's not what we want to do. We want long-term partnerships where, in a few months or a few years, we could be sipping a cocktail in Maui together, doing those type of things, really doing that. And we've had a lot of very long-term engagements because we talk this through, set up expectations, and are very real and candid on those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you do that. Are there metrics you're looking for out of the gates of, what kind of keyword volume is there? What sort of conversion rate are you guys seeing on your products right now? What sort of volume are you doing? What sort of questions are you asking to vet a lead to see if they're a good fit?
Sure. You'll have let's just talk about the existing market because that's the easier market to talk to because we're kind of talking about the conversion rate optimization side. So are the listing optimized? Is there low hanging fruit that we can go in and increase conversion rate off the bat, right? Because that's going to help. Then how are your campaigns being run, right? Like there's just from the pay-per-click ways, there's a lot of ways to run different pay-per-click levels, and there's ways to do them badly and there's ways to do them well. So we do an audit, kind of do that analysis, look at the top competitors. Then we also can do that segment analysis while we go through that for those top listings and say, hey, you have 3% market share of this much, and this market that you're looking at of this 100 or 200 ASINs is making $24 million a year. So is there room for growth as well? Right? And then by being able to do that, you can say, okay, there's room for growth. Are we price competitive? And that's a real thing that you need to be cognizant of on, you should be cognizant of on Amazon, is Amazon buyers are pretty elastic from an economic standpoint, meaning that price is pretty important to them, right? So you can do a premium product on Amazon and those things, but that's, again, where if you're doing a premium product, you really need to have the social media, you need to have the brand awareness, you need to kind of do some of those other things. And at that level, then Amazon becomes more about brand defense, doing some competitor conquesting on those areas, doing brand videos and those type of things, but basically being the thing when people vet your product. So, like for example, I got a Facebook advertising for this mosquito killer thing that was the best ever and developed by a 13-year-old and then got 10 million in funding and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. Looked at Amazon and it had 2.5 reviews. Right, like a review rating of 2.5. Okay, you guys are not telling the truth, right? I'm not going to buy the product. So Amazon on that level plays a different part depending on your pricing, your brand, your product, the growth rate, all these other things. And if you need to take time to assess that and make sure that you're getting positioned appropriately for that.
Yeah. How do you talk with clients, or how do you think about selling directly through a website versus selling on Amazon?
For sure. So the interesting thing that we see on Amazon general is Amazon, any conversion rate you're getting on the website, typically 10x it for Amazon, 5 to 10x it. So like if you have the e-commerce standard 1 to 2% on it, your website, Amazon's going to be 5 or 10% based on that in general.
I'm guessing also all the searches are commercial intent searches versus on Google, some are informational, some are commercial intent. That's just a guess.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely part of it. Amazon's about 48% of product search in the United States too, and Google's about 35% of product search. It's just amazing when you start diving into the data on Amazon, right? So with that, when you look at the conversion rate and those type of things, there's a few things that you should be cognizant of as a brand. You don't own the data on Amazon, so you don't have the customers. They are rolling out some kind of ways to email the customers, but those are pretty limited right now, and doing those things. But you don't own the data, right? So the lifetime value, what we find in general is the acquisition cost on Amazon is lower, but the lifetime value is lower as well. On your website, acquisition cost is higher, but if you're doing it right through email marketing, things that you know very well, then your lifetime value will be higher too. So it's just kind of that game. But in general, when you're doing brand awareness campaigns, Facebook, social media, YouTube, any of those type of things, you want to make sure that you have both those bases really well covered. Because if you don't, then you're going to lose sales on one or the other.
Yeah, that was perfect how you talked through that. Thank you for making it so clear. I'm curious, do you ever encounter brands, or do you ever see brands where they're really focused, say, on the Shopify or WooCommerce side? They haven't even explored Amazon appropriately. It sounds like they're really missing out in many cases.
Yeah, and during that Amazon Action Plan, and this, by the way, the Amazon Action Plan is a 2-week engagement. We meet with you, we sit down, and you get basically, it's not just an automated report like everybody does is, an audit, and it's click a button and nothing really happens. It's all data. It's actually people looking at what you're doing. But with what we do with that is anytime we go through the action plan, we actually do search on how much brand engagement are you getting, right? You're an established brand. We work with a brand that kind of leads the world in waterproof jewelry on that side, and then you can find their search intent on that. And you're like, hey, you're getting 2,000 searches a month right now, and that's buyer intent searches, right? So what would the conversion rate, how does that break down? What's the estimation just on those type of searches? And more importantly, I can see 3 competitors advertising on your keywords for your brand and conquesting you that way. right? So you're actually losing market share by not being on the platform defending yourself.
Ryan, is there anything else that's you guys are seeing that's really working, low-hanging fruit, quick wins, things that people should try? Let's say maybe they're not yet big enough to work with you guys, or what have you. If people are doing this on their own, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so don't do the DIY. That's essentially there are a number of different pay-per-click companies. Go ahead, feel free to contact us, and just you can come to our website and fill out. We can set up that. We actually have a Amazon 2022 Amazon strategy guide. That's a free download that you can get on the website and kind of walks you through these things. But on the pay-per-click side, it's just getting so competitive. Make sure you work with a professional. We have a SKU of professionals that we can refer you to that basically match almost any budget that you have on that side of things, right? That's not a do it from home type of thing. Make sure your listing's optimized and retail ready is the key. If you're up there with no reviews, you're not going to make sales. So highly recommend, if you're brand registered, that when you launch your product that you submit to Vine. Vine is a review program that Amazon has. It costs $200 to $300, $200 last I saw, I believe. And basically they will give 30 products, giveaways away to get up to 30 reviews. So that's a great way to seed some reviews, get those reviews, build that out, and then at least be retail ready before you start really doing heavy pushing on the pay-per-click side.
Yeah, that's great. You said a bit about this, Ryan, but I know you're at nuancedmedia.com. Is there another place people should find you, or where's a good place for people to check you out? And also say a bit about who's probably ready to potentially work with you guys. Yeah,
so where we really focus on is existing brands that are up, that have reviews, that kind of have some historic data on that, and are either losing market share or aren't quite satisfied with what they're getting, and they're seeing kind of an opportunity like, how do we grow, how do we build in those? Those are great clients that we can take and we can really build out. We typically like to see, at least $5,000 to $10,000 a month in ad spend, because we need to be able to ramp and grow. And actually how Amazon works is Amazon, compared to Google, and again, I think you'll really enjoy this, is by making sales on Amazon, you rank higher organically. Right? Google, you have to build backlinks, you have to do all those things, right? Because Amazon takes a 15% commission for most categories. Right? So the more you sell on Amazon, if you have those keywords in there and all that, your higher conversion rate, the more you'll rank organically. So what we do is we use the ad spend to grow your organic sales to build you to do those type of things, right? So a lot of organizations just focus on costs, your advertising cost of sale, compared to thinking about what's your total ROAS on the platform when you get in the organic sales and all those type of things. So that's a major misnomer. So those are the things. So I'm sorry, I kind of digressed there. Who we like to work with is established clients, got good reviews, got listings, want to take it to the next level. You can go to nuancedmedia.com. We'll actually put up a link to what's working with e-commerce, nuancedmedia.com/what's working with e-commerce. On that for you guys too. You can download the guide there. I highly recommend looking at that 2022 strategy guide. And if you have any questions or anything like that, just book a time with us. We have a number of business strategists that we can set up a time and talk to, and we can hop on a call and see if you're a good fit.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Ryan, we'll have to have you back on to go into more details here. This was great. Thank you so much for sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate your time. By the way, if you guys haven't gone to Egan's website and looked at go look at it. His brand's doing great things. I really highly recommend it. He's a great guy and he's a great service. Thanks again, Egan. Appreciate you.